Welcome to Lawyers Weekly Front and Center. My name is Scott Ziegler. I work for Lawyers Weekly, and today we're going to talk about using virtual networking to build a market niche. Joining me today is Joe Chatham, the founder and managing director of USA 500 Clubs. USA 500 Clubs is a platform for high caliber professionals, including attorneys, accountants, financial advisors, and others. USA 500's mission is to build and nurture meaningful business relationships that naturally result in commerce and camaraderie. I want to point out that USA 500 placed first for 5 years running in the Massachusetts and Lawyers Weekly Reader Ranking voting for Best Networking Club. Now, it is time to learn something from Joe Chatham, the master of relationship marketing. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, Scott. I'm glad to be here.
So, Joe, since we're talking about using virtual networking to build a market niche, let's talk about the state of virtual marketing. It's been around big time for a couple of years now. There was a time when that's all we had, not that long ago, but now people are getting back to in-person meetings and things like that. But you think virtual networking is here to stay, or at least for the foreseeable future?
Oh, absolutely. People tend to be fans of one or the other. I know I have my preference, but I also realize that each one has strategic value, and like most anything, it's shades of gray. Blending the two strategies can be, or blending the two types of networking can be extremely effective. But the virtual is absolutely here to stay. It's easy, it's convenient, allows you huge geographic reach, obviously global in seconds. It allows you to avoid the drive, the parking, the spending of the money, but it also, where it's equally disadvantageous in some ways. For example, human bonding and being in front of people, the nuance of body language that you miss, and you're always fighting the distractions of who's beyond the camera or what's beyond the camera, the dog, the kids, the emails, but virtual is here to stay, and I would argue that you can make it work for you more effectively than in combination with in-person than anything in the past. Bar none, virtual is here to stay, and is one of the most effective marketing tools now.
Okay. Well, are there any other pros to the virtual networking specifically?
Well, like I said, the main pros of virtual are the ease of being in front of a lot of people. So what I've been doing is I've been comparing it, and when I talk to my members, I said it's when you share something on LinkedIn, which is the de facto business social network, you're looking for likes, shares, and comments. If you look at virtual networking as essentially it's like video social media, you're looking for views. You're looking for people to share comments or like your comments in the form of the thumbs up, the clapping, whatever it is, just a reinforcement in the room. And then the share is taking it outside of the room and talking about you, or talking about what you had to say, or referring you business. So if you equate the virtual networking with social media, your goal is to get as many views as possible, hopefully get as many comments as possible, and get people to share you as a resource as possible. At most, you're in-person networking, you have to get there. You have to spend the time to be there, and then you're forget spending money and parking and all that. It's a huge time suck, and it can definitely be worthwhile because it's more effective. But on the other hand, if I am going to establish myself as a subject matter expert, I know you can't use the word expert as lawyers, but if I truly want to be a subject matter expert at something, or be known as an authority, a legal authority on something, I need to get as many people to repeat that message for me, right? And in other words, sharing. So how do I go about doing that? So I've talked about it in prior videos with you. You need to establish a market vertical, or a niche that is going to separate you from all the other attorneys out there. It's not enough to say I'm a corporate attorney. It's not enough to say I'm an employment attorney. You need to get more in detail. So I've used in the past the example of I'm a corporate attorney who specializes in working in the grocery industry. okay, or food distribution, that expands out a little bit, but let's just loosely say grocery. And I decide that this is going to become my market niche. I can all day long sit and talk about it, but I need to leverage the power of a lot of other people to really make myself become branded that way. And so what I would do is I would walk into every networking organization I could that puts me in front of the right people, people that can refer that kind of business. And I'd go from that meeting to the next meeting. And it doesn't have, I don't mean, necessarily back to back to back, but maybe daily, maybe twice a week, maybe, 3 times, 4 times a week. But at every single meeting, I'd be beating up that message. My name is Joe Chatham, Chatham Legal Services, focusing on a corporate attorney, focusing on the grocery industry. And then what happens is people start to remember it, if only because of repetition. It's repetition that you can't get that much of if you're constantly if you're doing all in person. You can certainly do it, but you just can't do as much of it just because we're limited in time. But in the virtual world, I have options all day long. I can be at a USA 500 meeting in the morning. I can be at a chamber meeting at lunch. And then I could be at a chamber meeting in California. And then another networking group in Colorado, depending on where I want to brand myself geographically. So it allows me to get my name and spread it out there much more universally than I ever could by staying local. And if I have a federal practice, that even makes it better. So it allows you to really get your name out there, but you have to have a compelling message so that people will remember you. If you just say, oh, I'm Joe Chatham, I'm visiting from Boston here in Los Angeles, and I'm a corporate attorney, refer me any corporate work.
Right.
The message
not memorable,
not compelling, but if it is compelling, you want to repeat it. You want to everywhere you can, and virtual gives you the maximum amount of opportunities to really get out there and spread that message.
Right. And the other great thing about these virtual meetings is you really don't even have to wear any pants, or at least long pants.
That's correct. That's correct. You do it all from the comfort of your home, and you can hit. There's an event everywhere, and it doesn't have to all be networking. You could be going to a bar association, a networking event. You could be going to participating in a nonprofit that you like to work with. But at all of them, you're somehow giving out your message, and virtual allows you to just to carpet bomb, right? Your message out there.
In addition to the frequency and repeating the message, your carefully honed message, do you have like one tip or takeaway or best practice that people can use on these calls, be it fancy background like we have here, something memorable, or a catchphrase, or any other thing?
Well, your name, in your name, always put something in your name thing if you're trying to identify as something. So mine might say, instead of Joe Chatham USA 500 Clubs, it would say Joe Chatham corporate attorney / grocery industry. That is just it's a visual reinforcement of the message you're trying to give people. And then on top of that, and your compelling message that I already talked about, I like people who bring up hot topics sort of somehow, something, it's just something I think is important for the group to know. There was a recent law that changed that says that, the price of lettuce has to be multiplied by 5. Something that people care about. And there's almost always something that's interesting in an industry, and, sharing it with the group, because people do like to know what's going on, but don't just pick something that is, that people don't care about. Just try to think through some sort of message of, or give an example of something in the news that may be that people can relate to.
Well, that makes sense. These are great tips, good suggestions, and a good topic. Good. Virtual networking here to stay, but Joe Chatham, we're not here to stay. Our session is over. So thank you very much for joining Lawyers Weekly Front and Center.
Thank you, Scott.